My name is Bernie Siegel. I'm the founder and chair of the World Stem Cell Summit, a special project of the nonprofit Regenerative Medicine Foundation. Welcome to the 18th Stem Cell and Regenerative Medicine Action Awards. First, thank you to our esteemed partners in the Regenerative Medicine Essentials course, the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine, under the leadership of Dr. Tony Atala, and WFIRM's Director of Education, and my main collaborator for this week's virtual event, Joan Shank. Also, I wish to recognize Dr. Jane Andrews and Dr. Praveen Ramamurthy of Cellbridge Strategies, a premier consultancy that helped design this year's summit program. A special thanks to our director-producer, Kevin McMahon, our Director of Communications, Joey Dawson, and CFO, Jerry Friends. Also, our two policy fellows, Melissa King and Alan Giacomo. 2 decades ago, I chose to take a different path in my life, and I decided to change careers, leaving the very busy practice of law in Miami to become an advocate for what was no longer an obscure part of developmental biology, but a launch pad for a fourth pillar of medicine, those pillars being pharmaceuticals, biologicals, medical devices, and the new pillar, cell therapies. Some of you may be curious as why anyone would make a big change in career. Well, in part because of my diagnosis, treatment, and survival of colon cancer at an early age. It awakened me as to the fragility of my own life and my desire to make the highest and best use of whatever meager talents I possessed. With the encouragement of 2 leading stem cell researchers, Dr. Rudolf Janisch and Dolly the sheep's father, Sir Ian Wilmot, we created the Genetics Policy Institute, now the Regenerative Medicine Foundation. And we forged a new path to engage the public, the patient advocacy world, and to make their voices heard and accelerate the field of regenerative medicine to improve health and deliver cures. Our foundation, of which many of this audience are members, have been engaged in almost every public issue and have accomplished much. Some of those things is diffusing the cloning hysteria and helping derail a well-funded effort to declare cloning of stem cells a violation of international law by having the UN ban the research by world treaty. We saved the research by a single vote in the UN's legal committee. Fighting hard and building coalitions to lift US federal restrictions on NIH funding for new embryonic stem cell lines, filing friend of court briefs in the landmark case of Shirley v. Sevilius, aimed at restricting embryonic stem cell research, intensely supporting efforts to protect stem cell research in various states that made the research a fundamental right in state constitutions. Campaigning and helping organize the Prop 71 and the Prop 14 ballot measures that created and funded approximately $12 billion for the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine. That's an institute unique in the world. And it reminds us of Justice Louis Brandeis's famous remark, states are the laboratories of democracy. Creating conferences, the World Stem Cell Summit and other events to educate and network in favor of stem cell research, translation, and commercialization involving all stakeholders, and thereby forging trusted and a matured network to solve problems and get things done. Various successful STEM and STEAM community projects, and of course, this original awards program that honors leadership, advocacy, and achievement in our field. All stakeholders, up, down, and across hierarchies. Some of our 80 honorees include the then former Vice President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden for the Cancer Initiative, Michael J. Fox medical philanthropies such as JDRF, Emily Whitehead Foundation, Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, grassroots advocacy groups such as the Huntington's Disease Communities, ALS Worldwide, philanthropists and advocacy heroes such as Danny Human, Sabrina Cohen, Shelley Ross, Susan Solomon, Joe Riggs, Bob Klein, and many, many more. And that, my friends, is just the tip of the iceberg of 20 years of efforts. Now we present the PATHFINDER Award to Dr. Mahendra Rao. From discovery to translation, Dr. Rao has had an exemplary career in advancing the field of stem cells. He is internationally known for his research on pluripotent cells and has over 2 decades of experience in the academic aspects of the field, in addition to government regulation, industrial, and clinical applications. You know, he was the founding director of the Center for Regenerative Medicine, the CRM at NIH. He's been a leader in industry. You're going to hear more about him from Dr. Atala, who's going to give the proper detailed introduction. But I have to tell you something special about Mahendra, because I've known him for years. He is considered one of the senior voices and pioneers of the field, a true pathfinder. The thing about Mahendra that makes him special is he's quiet, calm, he has an understated brilliance and leadership. In the journey, I've listened to him speak in a way where he makes the most complicated topics understood. He has tremendous patience and kindness. He not only answers the questions, but if you watch him at a conference, and I've heard him many times, he stands around and he takes questions and questions and questions. It doesn't matter whether it's from a senior scientist or a postdoc or an undergraduate or grade school, but he answers them, he points them in the right direction, he connects dots, he gives of himself. And we are especially pleased to be honoring him with this Pathfinder Award because he was one of the engines behind this year's inaugural India Symposium, our first at this World Stem Cell Summit, to show the spotlight on the great country of India and all it's doing in the field of regenerative medicine. So in my role of introducing the introducers, I get a chance to talk about my good friend and colleague, Anthony Atala. Dr. Atala, of course. Tony is the director of the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine. He's also a surgeon, a urologist. You know, Tony is very special. Just like Douglas MacArthur, he's one of those clean desk men. There's nothing cluttering his desk. And I don't think there's anything that clutters his mind. For relaxation, he takes Fridays and he performs surgery. He is the hardest working person and perhaps one of the most organized individuals I've ever met. He's edited many books. He's the editor-in-chief of Stem Cells Translational Medicine, the journal partner of our Regenerative Medicine Foundation. He is a true pathfinder in every sense of the word, an esteemed partner who has worked with the Regenerative Medicine Foundation. In fact, he created the original Regenerative Medicine Foundation that later we worked with him with the Genetics Policy Institute, and we took the name because it's a better name and it represents better the work that our advocacy group has done for years. But Tony has always been involved and remains a director of the Regenerative Medicine Foundation. Well, he's going to speak in detail about Mahendra Rao, so I'll turn it over to Tony.
It gives me great pleasure to congratulate Dr. Mahendra Rao for being a 2022 Regenerative Medicine Foundation honoree. Dr. Rao is internationally known for his research involving human embryonic stem cells and other somatic stem cells, and has worked in the stem cell field for more than 35 years, with stints in academia, government and regulatory affairs, and industry. Dr. Rao received his medical degree from Bombay University in India and his PhD in developmental neurobiology from the California Institute of Technology. After completing his postdoc fellowship at Case Western Reserve, he served as assistant and associate professor at the University of Utah School of Medicine and as an associate professor of neurosciences at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. During that time, he also served as a stem cell section chief and senior investigator at the Laboratory of Neuroscience for the National Institutes of Aging from 2001 to 2005, where he led a group focused on translational work related to Parkinson's disease and Schwann cell pathology. Dr. Rao has had an extensive background teaching medical and graduate students, as well as postdoctoral fellows at different academic institutions. From 2006 to 2011, he served as Vice President of Regenerative Medicine for the company Invitrogen, then Life Technologies. He directly supervised a staff of 60 and was responsible for all new product releases. From August 2010 to April of 2014, Dr. Rao served as Laboratory Chief and Director of the NIH Center for Regenerative Medicine with a budget of $50 million and represented the US government in its stem cell policy. He also served on advisory panels for the governments of Singapore and India on stem cell policy. He also formerly served as a chair of the FDA Advisory CBER's Biological Response Modifiers Committee. He currently serves on several editorial boards, including the journal Stem Cells and Stem Cells Translational Medicine. Dr. Rao holds 17 issued patents, which have been licensed to more than 14 companies. He's the founder of Therapeutics, NextCell, and Implant Therapeutics. Starting in January of 2018, he became CEO of the Pancella Group of companies. Dr. Rao has published over 300 manuscripts and edited over 10 books related to stem cells. ResearchGate lists his impact citation at the top 97th percentile. Dr. Rao has received numerous awards, including the 1998 American Association for the Advancement of Science Herrick Best Young Investigator Award, the 2004 National Institute of Aging Staff Awards for service and teaching, and the 2012 National Brain Research Institute of India Medal for Scientific Achievement. In 2012, he was named one of the 10 most influential people in regenerative medicine, and in 2014, he received the Federation of Asian Biotech Association's Lifetime Achievement Award. I've had the privilege to work and interact with Mahendra Rao, a true pace setter in our field, for many years. He's always there, willing to help anyone who asks. He's a wonderful mentor to so many, and one of the kindest individuals you could ever meet. It gives me great pleasure to recognize my good friend and colleague, and this year's awardee of the Regenerative Medicine Foundation's PATHFINDER Award, Dr. Mahendra Rao.
Thank you, Dr. Atala, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Bernie, and the regents of the Regenerative Medicine Foundation for honoring me with this PATHFINDER Award. Although I've been fortunate in my life to have garnered several awards, this particular award is of extra special to me because it identifies an effort that I've made throughout my life, and it's particularly close to my heart. Throughout my life, I have aspired to make sure that the wonderful research that is done in labs around the world can be translated and made accessible in the clinic. This PATHFINDER Award tells me that people have recognized this effort. A pathfinder may not be a pioneer, they may not be a trailblazer, but they are the ones who show you how to get from point A to point B. Of course, success in being a pathfinder is only if other people follow that path. And I think this recognition and this honor will make sure that that becomes a lot more possible. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to accept this honor, and I hope you will all join me in this journey. Thank you.
We are pleased to honor the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund with our Leadership Award. The state of Maryland made a visionary investment in regenerative medicine when it created this fund with bipartisan support. The purpose is to accelerate stem cell research and cures through grants awarded to the public and private entities in the state. Led by stem cell scientist and thought leader, Dr. Amrita Jayashankar, the fund identifies and fosters cutting-edge research and innovation in the field. The fund's Accelerating Cures initiative comprises programs that both help transition human stem cell-based technologies from the bench to bedside. Devoted to improving health and advancing cures, this remarkable commitment to stem cell research is a success story, and it has a sustainable impact. It has supported over 500 stem cell projects and nearly 1,700 jobs, which were associated with more than $145 million in compensation, $381 million in economic activity in Maryland, and has generated more than $14 million in revenue for the state and for local governments. Moreover, innovative treatments and cures for diseases, as well as improvements in quality of life. The state of Maryland has done well by doing good. We've worked with the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund for many, many years under the leadership of Dan Ginsel and now Amrita. And I must say, one of the reasons we call Maryland the stem cell state is because of their pathfinding research and support for the institutions within the state. One of the highlights, of course, of being the MC of this event is not only do I get to talk about the honorees, but I get to introduce the introducers, those that are going to talk a little bit more about the honorees. Now, there are two today that are going to speak about the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund before Amrita accepts the honor. The first is Dr. Kurt Siven. Now, many of you know Dr. Kurt Siven. Kurt is a pioneer in stem cell research and cancer research, who's known internationally for developing a technology to isolate stem cells from other blood cells. And he's the founding director for this University of Maryland Center for Stem Cell Biology and Regenerative Medicine. But let me tell you something about Kurt as well. When we ran the World Stem Cell Summit in 2009 in Baltimore, Kurt served as one of the co-chairs of the meeting. He was already a senior guy in the field. After all, he's the one that corrected me when I talked about mesenchymal stem cells. And he said, mesenchymal, Bernie, call them mesenchymal cells. And I've tried to honor Kurt by doing so since. Kurt was the individual that inspired the World Stem Cell Summit and my foundation that I had started to not only look to embryonic stem cell research and embryonic cells as the future of regenerative medicine, but it was all cells, all stem cells, and cell biology and cell therapies in general. That was an important milestone to realize that we should not look at this as some wedge political issue, but we should look at all of cell therapies as a way to alleviate human suffering and one day find cures. Kurt helped me understand that. In addition to Kurt, we're going to have some introductory remarks for this honor to Maryland from Dr. Deborah Matthews. Now, Deborah is someone that I've known a long time. We were delegates appointed to Her Majesty's government to visit back in 2007, the Scottish Centre for Regenerative Medicine, the Bioscience Centre at Newcastle, HFEA in London, and we're part of a policy roundtable. Also joining us was a former chair of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission, Linda Powers. Well, now Deborah, who's a bioethicist and affiliated with the Berman Institute for Bioethics at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, serves as chair of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission. I'm glad to have called her a friend for so long, and I'm very delighted that she's going to make some remarks. And then Amrita Jayashankar, who is the director of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund, will accept the honor.
Good evening, my friends, colleagues, and fellow stem cell researchers. I'm Kurt Siven, professor of pediatrics and physiology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, where I serve to lead the Stem Cell Center and as associate dean for research. I'm so pleased and so terribly honored today to provide testimonial support for Amrita Jayashankar as the leader of our Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund. Dr. Shanker is an experienced and expert stem cell biologist, and that really helps in the leadership of this research fund. Rather than being a pure administrator, she can get deep in the science as she discusses things with people. This is a good year for stem cell research in Maryland coming up. We're sharpening our pencils to write our grants for all these proposals, and we know that we'll get quality advice, coaching, leadership, and even guidance on commercialization or toward clinical trials or toward other funding sources, commercial or government, from our star leader, Dr. Amrita J. Shanker. So I think this tribute today is very, very well deserved, and I want to add my own personal and congratulations.
My name is Deborah Matthews, and I'm faculty in the Berman Institute of Bioethics and the Department of Genetic Medicine at Johns Hopkins University. It's been my honor to serve as the chair of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission for the past 3 years. And as someone who was involved in the debates and discussions in Maryland at the time the MSCRF was established, it's been both exciting and gratifying to watch both the fund and the stem cell community in Maryland grow, diversify, and mature over the past 15 years. I've learned so much as a member of the commission and have been astounded by some of the research that we've been able to fund. Starting first in the lab, then as research was translated into a product or intervention, and then into clinical trials. In a very short time, we've seen the promise of stem cell research proven in patients. I'm proud of the work that the commission and our incredibly talented and dedicated staff have been able to do in Maryland, and I'm excited to see where we go next and where the research community will take us. Thank you, on behalf of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission, for honoring the MSCRF with a 2022 Stem Cell and Regenerative Medicine Action Award for Leadership.
Hello, my name is Doug Dorfler. I'm founder and CEO of MaxCyte in Gaithersburg, Maryland. It's a great honor to be a recipient of several grants by the highly competitive Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund process, as well as the recipient of their advocacy within and outside the state of Maryland. They have been a great long-time partner of MaxCyte. So MaxCyte received these grants in 2011, 2015, and 2017, focused on our work to advance the non-viral engineering of stem cells to treat CGD, and several grants to advance our seminal work on engineering stem cells and iPSCs to treat sickle cell disease in collaboration with CIRM and the University of Maryland, including Dr. Kurt Siven. This work has led to the development of processes that are currently in the clinic, treating patients using our expert platform with our commercial partners. We're excited about the potential for commercial products to be introduced by our partners in the next couple of years to treat patients who have limited treatment options. Again, congratulations to Amrita for their amazing support of our industry in Maryland and the coordination of the many partners within the state of Maryland that have been supportive of MaxCyte and the industry, making Maryland the go-to state for the development of novel cellular therapies. Again, thank you and congratulations.
Hi, my name is Amrita Jaishankar, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund. First of all, thank you to the Board of Directors of the Regenerative Medicine Foundation and to Bernie Siegel and the entire RMF team for this honor. I am truly delighted and humbled to receive this recognition for MSCRF. It means so much to me and my team as we work hard each day to serve the stem cell community and advance cures to patients one step at a time. Thank you for recognizing our leadership and contributions to this field. We've been a part of the World Stem Cell Summit for many years now, and we share the goal to unite, educate, and empower the global stem cell and regenerative medicine community. So this recognition is special to me, and I'm thrilled to join the illustrious past recipients of this award. I have a lot of people to thank for our success. I am especially grateful to the Governor and the Maryland General Assembly for their support of our efforts. Special thanks to members of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission and my amazing MSCRF team and our community of scientists, companies, and reviewers for their dedication and support of our efforts. I also thank the Maryland Technology Development Corporation for their administrative support, and a big thank you to all our various colleagues and partners across the globe who have supported our mission. I'm really honored and proud each day to be a part of this regenerative medicine community in Maryland that we've built together and that I've served for the past 12 years. It's been a privilege to lead MSCRF and to empower our scientists and companies to innovate and accelerate cell therapies and cures to improve patients' lives. It's a pity we can't celebrate in person this year, but we have over 20 of our portfolio joining us today. And this recognition is truly a reflection of how much this community has accomplished together. So thank you. And we look forward to continuing this journey with you to improve human health and accelerate cures. Thank you.
The next action award is for advocacy. We honor Frances Verter and the foundation that she created, Parents Guide to Cord Blood Foundation. In the many years of being the host for this award ceremony, I've always especially moved by those advocates that have had to deal with trauma and sadness in their own lives, especially when they have encountered illnesses and diseases impacting their children. Frances is one of those individuals, and she's a very special individual. First of all, she has a PhD in astrophysics from Princeton University and has worked for NASA. So you can't say that Frances isn't a sharp cookie. But she had a major disaster that happened in her life when her beloved daughter, Shai, came and was diagnosed with cancer. Now, Frances sought out treatment from the best doctors and the best hospitals. And after Shai passed away, she went on to have more children and decided to bank their cord blood privately. She made a big focus to investigate the cord blood banks available at that time. And she realized that that research as a consumer effort wasn't readily available to all parents, many of them in the same position. Should we bank our cord blood? Should we not bank our cord blood? Can these stem cells be useful or not? Is the cost right? Maybe not. Well, Frances started first a Facebook page, and she became so involved, she left her position at NASA to be a full-time patient advocate, incorporating Parents Guide to Cord Blood Foundation. And she's thrown herself even deeper into the field. Everything about cord blood, from education for expectant parents to the use of cord blood in clinical trials. She regularly attends conferences, gives talks, and publishes articles. She knows more about cord blood banking than just about anyone I've ever met, and has given 100% of herself to help parents with questions. And we will be hearing shortly from 3 parents who have been helped by Parents Guide to Cord Blood Foundation: Simon Gidi, Susan Katamuri, and Lauren Shepard. But the other thing about Frances that makes her so special, in my view, is her outspokenness. She's a critical thinker. If someone says the wrong thing or incorrect information, she's not afraid to speak up and correct them. And I've been on the receiving end and accepted her advice and guidance gratefully. When I think of her having that special attribute. As Gandhi once said, many people, especially ignorant people, want to punish you for speaking the truth, for being correct, for being you. Never apologize for being correct or being years ahead of your time. If you are right and you know it, speak your mind. Even if you're a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. I think Frances is a truth sayer and tremendously valuable to our field and a true advocate.
Hi, my name's Lauren Shepard, and I have an older daughter with Down syndrome. And while we were expecting, we looked into cord banking for our second to possibly help with future possible issues that our older daughter could face. There's a lot of comorbidities that come along with Down syndrome in adulthood. So we were interested in cord banking, but we're kind of overwhelmed by all the information that was out there. I kind of tried to research all the different private companies and came across Dr. Verter's website. And so I had been really relying on that for non-biased research information, because it's just a lot for someone who's not in a medical field to kind of come into, and even more information that kind of helped make decisions that I didn't even know needed to be made. And so she really helped us through that process.
I'm Simone. I'm the father of Victoria, who's now 2 years old. We were doing all we could to make sure that if in the future something was going to come up, we were having all the necessary tools to support her. And so we started looking into the internet, given that our doctors were not really simplifying, what to do with respect to saving this blood, this tissue, which kind of bank to go to. And we came across Dr. Verter website, which was very simple, was breaking down complex concepts that we could easily grasp. And when there were a few things that we actually wanted to deep dive a bit further on, we reached out directly to Dr. Verter, who has been always very available to reply to our questions. And she has been kind of clearing some of the concerns we were having. Access to herself and her wealth of knowledge has been tremendous value to us. And we are very happy that she's receiving today this award, because she definitely fully deserves it.
Hi, my name is Susan Catamarie, and I have two sons with autism. I have one son rather severely affected by autism, and he's 4 years old. And my husband and I are anxious and eager to look at the science and therapeutic targets to treat autism. And of course, one very promising field is stem cells. So while looking for answers, my husband and I stumbled across Parents' Guide to Cord Blood, and we found it to be an invaluable resource to understanding very esoteric, complicated science to layperson's terms. So Dr. Fran Verter was very instrumental to helping me with my unusual request, and she gave me plenty of hours without expecting anything in return, which I thought harks back to one of my favorite quotes. The true measure of a man's character is how he treats those who can do nothing for him. And I think Dr. Fran Verter is very deserving of this award, because she gave me her time so generously. She's answered my questions. She's dedicated this website to helping parents who are really dealing with complex medical conditions.
I am Frances Verter, founder of Parents' Guide to Cord Blood Foundation, and I'm honored to accept the Advocacy Award from the Regenerative Medicine Foundation at the World Stem Cell Summit this year. I feel kind of like this is a full circle experience, because I have been attending these advocacy meetings that Bernie Siegel organizes for over a decade, and I never thought I would receive an award at one. So I'm surprised to be here. And I think all of us, both the participants and the attendees, should thank Bernie that he has the perseverance that he keeps holding these meetings. That's really, something that's been a contribution to the field. So I am obligated to tell you a bit about my foundation, Parents' Guide to Cord Blood, but I also have been warned to keep it very short. So I started the foundation in 1998. Initially, it was just a website. It was intended just to educate parents about cord blood banking. At that point in time, a lot of parents did not realize that cord blood, or even the umbilical cord itself, was not just medical waste. And we needed to raise awareness that it contained stem cells and that stem cells had medical value. So the initial purpose of the website was to let parents know about their options in cord blood banking. They have the option to donate the cord blood to a public bank where it could provide a life-saving transplant for an unrelated patient, or they have the option to pay for private banking and have it reserved for their family for future medical therapies. And that was how I started on this journey in 1998, which was 24 years ago. And over time, the website became much more popular than anybody anticipated, including myself. And I ended up leaving my day job at NASA Goddard and running the website as part of a nonprofit foundation, and it became my full-time job. But nonetheless, it has been quite a journey because the field of cord blood medicine and the nature of advocacy on behalf of parents has really evolved over the past quarter of a century. And that is why I find it kind of ironic to be here getting an advocacy award, because it raises questions. What is the nature of advocacy? I find that our advocacy has completely changed from one end of the spectrum to the other over those past 24 years. So to explain that, in the beginning, it was consumer advocacy. Parents were primarily deciding, should I donate or bank privately? There was very little patient advocacy because the only medical application of cord blood back in 1998 was stem cell transplants, which for children are a rare procedure. So I did occasionally deal with parents who had a child that needed a transplant, especially if they had an older child that needed a transplant and they were looking to have a direct donation for a younger child. That situation would come up. But it was primarily a consumer advocacy website where we provided a questionnaire and we helped parents to evaluate private banks. So fast forward to today, 2022, and the vast majority of parents that contact the foundation now are looking for advice about therapy with cord blood. It has transitioned from consumer advocacy to patient advocacy. What has happened over the past couple of decades plus is that there have been many clinical trials using cord blood for a variety of new applications, especially various forms of brain injury in neonatals, very young babies, and young children. Conditions like having a stroke before they were born, having encephalopathy, cerebral palsy, and even autism. All of these conditions have been in clinical trials around the world. And cord blood has been in clinical trials for other conditions too. It's been used in surgery for children born with heart defects, traumatic brain injury, acquired hearing loss, and really a wide variety of clinical trials. And one of our missions has grown to be tracking clinical trials with both cord blood and birth tissues. So as a result of this, parents now have the option to pursue therapy for brain injuries, and that therapy takes different forms in different countries. In some countries, there are clinical trials that are open to a large number of parents that have an expanded access. In some countries, it is legal to get regenerative medicine. And in almost all countries, there are unregulated clinics that are offering unapproved therapies. So it has become a very confusing landscape, and many parents feel very strongly that they want to go for this therapy. And I find that our foundation more and more has had to play the role of providing them with safety guidelines that, well, these are some things you should know before you go. And that is how we have ended up providing a lot of patient advocacy when we started out with consumer advocacy. Another thing that you should know is that the Parents Guide to Cord Blood Foundation could not be providing all these services without the support of all our donors. And we have a very wide variety of donors that come from many corners of the world, and they're all important to us, whether big or small. I want to thank all the donors that we have had over the years and that we have right now. So once again, I would like to thank the Regenerative Medicine Foundation and the World Stem Cell Summit for recognizing the fact that over the years, even though medicine with cord blood has evolved, parents have had an ongoing need for scientifically accurate and balanced and cautionary information about those potential therapies, and that the Parents' Guide to Cord Blood has been here to try to help those parents. Thank you.
It is my great pleasure to announce the Lifetime Achievement Award going to our friend and colleague, Dr. Arnold I. Caplan. Now, for all of you that know Arnie, I want you to look at his face and understand that is the face that has launched 1,000 ships, 1,000 companies, 1,000 research projects, 1,000 careers or more with the discovery of MSCs. Arnie is one outspoken guy. Having developed and created, published 500 papers about MSCs, or as he originally called them, mesenchymal stem cells, he has studied them so long and with such detail and has so much knowledge that he announced to the world that he was wrong, that they shouldn't be called stem cells. They are indeed medicinal signaling cells. That's being outspoken, and that's being a leader. I've had the great pleasure since the pandemic actually started of almost weekly calls that involved Arnie Caplan for the Alliance for Cell Therapy Now, Act Now, which is a policy advocacy organization. I am fortunate enough to co-chair the advisory board of the group, and Arnold is an active participant. He has the wisdom of years of experience, and generally he is spot on in everything that he recommends and says. He is a mentor to so many researchers, management teams, advisory boards galore. There's no one quite like him in our world. He is almost universally respected. And for those that might not care for MSCs, they're just jealous. So I'm very pleased that he will be receiving this Lifetime Achievement Award tonight. Now, there's a special individual to introduce Dr. Caplan, and that is Scott Bruder, MD, PhD, the founder and CEO of Bruder Consulting and Venture Group. Scott has enjoyed a long and distinguished career in the discovery, development, and commercialization of products that diagnose, treat patients around the world. I want to suggest to you that there's no one better to introduce Arnie Caplan, and he gives a stellar introduction. So you'll learn just how wonderful Arnold Caplan is and how deserving he is of a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Hello, everybody. It is my distinct honor and privilege to be able to say a few words about Professor Arnold Caplan, this year's recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award. My name is Scott Bruder, and I have known Arnold since 1984. Now, I'd first like to thank the World Stem Cell Summit for recognizing Arnold and all that he has done, consistent with the mission of the summit and the organization that is a multidisciplinary approach to advancing our efforts in stem cell therapy. Now, some of you may not know Arnold's long history in science, and so I just want to spend a couple of minutes walking through that. But what you'll see is that he started his scientific career in the Institute of Technology in Illinois in 1963. He went on to get his PhD at Johns Hopkins. He did a postdoc there with Professor Hackenbrock, and then 2 postdocs at Brandeis with 2 other giants in science, Nathan Caplan and Ed Zwelling, and then moved to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland in 1969. He has now been there 53 years. We had the joy of celebrating his 50th anniversary on campus, which in and of itself is a tremendous achievement and milestone. I had the pleasure of meeting Arnold in 1984, and as his graduate student, this was one of the first books that he gave me, and a theme that really drove much of his work for the majority of his career, and that is, you can read this comment about tissue morphogenesis and the identification that there is a population of cells here in the limb bud that are capable of differentiating into all of the other complex tissues in the fully formed limb. And that really represents a lifetime of work and opportunity and R01s and many other grants. And Arnold leveraged that to learn and to teach so many people. I had the pleasure, as I said, as being one of his graduate students, and Bernie's asked me to talk a little bit about from the context of Arnold as a mentor. And Arnold has provided a tremendous environment, not only for myself to learn, but so many others. Now, what many of you will recognize is this slide from 1990. Now, this slide, as you can see, this is one of the original versions of the slide. It was considered a hypothesis. Up here on the right, he calls it a hypothesis because the idea was that there would be this stem cell, a mesenchymal stem cell that could give rise to all of these tissues. And Arnold now talks about how we were able to force these cells down these various lineages in vitro. But the story has evolved since 1990. And in fact, we'll talk just a little bit more about those contributions that he made in that regard. So shortly after this, this concept of the mesogenic process was put forth by Arnold in this landmark paper in the Journal of Orthopedic Research in 1990, we had this idea that we would be able to harvest those cells and use them in a way that would allow for the tissue repair and reconstruction of a variety of mesenchymal origin tissues. And while this turned out to be effective, we've since learned that the reasons for that are not exactly as Arnold had put forth. He initially thought that these cells would, in the body, directly form a variety of adult human tissues. But in fact, it's more nuanced than that because the cells have different functions. We talk about the cells having this secretory component. Now, I say we talk about it because we've all learned from our friend, Professor Caplan. And so if I go back and I think about the times that he was a mentor to me and so many others, during this very special period at Case Western, and as I've mentioned, he's been there 53 years, I can tell you that from the 1980s onward, there was a period where the following acts took place that really changed the face of regenerative medicine and stem cell therapy. So he started working with that embryonic limb bud, as I mentioned, and identified a variety of markers that allowed the scientific community to measure lineage progression, was able to identify these cells from a variety of tissues, not just periosteum and bone marrow, and then named this process the mesogenic process, and these cells were MSCs, or mesenchymal stem cells, at the time. There were patents that were issued. There was a company that created and led to this new era of regenerative medicine. And one of the most important distinctions that then took place was the transition to allotherapy instead of using autologous therapy. And so on the heels of all of this, as many of you know, MSCs became the subject of research in laboratories literally around the world. And that is when all of this new information came to light and actually caused Arnold to re-examine his initial hypothesis. And in so doing, he decided to call these cells medicinal signaling cells, which of course allowed him to keep the acronym MSC. These are he is something he referred to as medicinal signaling cells. And in a very uncharacteristic move, he actually admits to being wrong. And now he says, and he urges and begs all of us not to call them stem cells, not to call the MSCs mesenchymal stem cells, mesenchymal stem cells. Don't call them stem cells because they really don't behave as stem cells in the body. And all of this has led to this tremendous explosion of clinical research, now captured in over 1,400 trials that are listed, some of which are completed, some of which are still ongoing, registered online at clinicaltrials.gov. So you can read about all of these studies ranging from orthopedic tissue repair to graft versus host disease to management of degenerative diseases, as well as COVID-19. These cells have an extraordinary potential to influence human health going forward. And this is one of the key tenets of why we all should recognize Arnold as being the leader that he is and deserving of the Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, I do have some numerics that I'd like to share with you about Arnold's accomplishments. And in a decreasing number set, we start with $35 million, which is an approximation of the number of grant dollars that he's received from the federal government to support his work over the last near 50 years. He has 63,706 citations as of today on Google Scholar with a very high H-index and 530 peer-reviewed publications. I can't keep track. That's continuing to grow. As Bernie said, perhaps the greatest impact is the number of grad students, postdocs, and others fellows that were trained from around the world that have come to his laboratory, that have trained in his laboratory and gone on to themselves having tremendous careers as academicians, as investigators, as clinicians, as deanery, or in industry. This is really the biggest testament to Arnold's leadership, in my humble opinion. As I said, he's been in the same office, and has been in case for 53 years, but in the same office in the Miller Science Center, which ironically has the same acronym, MSC, for 50 years. He has 24 issued and pending patents, and this will be either the 16th or 17th significant or lifetime achievement award that he's received. Now, on a more personal note, because all of this is supported by our families and our friends, he has 8 direct lineage descendants with at least 25 and as much as 50% of his DNA. He's founded one company, Osiris Therapeutics, taken that public and sold it for $600 million. And lastly, the ranking of that mesenchymal stem cell paper from 1990 is the highest ranking paper in the orthopedic basic science literature since 1970. It's referenced at every orthopedic meeting that we go to. So as I sum up, I have this photo from Arnold from 12 years ago. Here he's beginning to talk about how MSCs should no longer be called mesenchymal stem cells. They should be medicinal signaling cells. You can see that. Lo, you think that he could name everything in MSC. It turns out that at 80 years old, and forgive me, Arnold, but everybody knows you're still young at heart, he is traveling the globe, talking about his science, talking about other people's science, learning and teaching. But I think that what's going to happen is we're going to see, and this is for real, we're going to see him take his show on the road. This is a very prominent cruise company called MSC Cruises. I don't know that they actually know Professor Caplan, but I think we'd love to see him take this show on, not exactly on the road, but on the water. So please join me in congratulating my dear friend, my scientific father, my mentor, and esteemed professor, Arnold Caplan. Arnold, congratulations. We love you, we honor you, and we respect you. Thank you so much for all that you have done, and we are here to say Godspeed and keep going. Thank you very much.
I am hugely honored to be given this Lifetime Achievement Award by the World Stem Cell Summit, and I want to thank my good friend Bernie and his committee for bestowing this honor upon me, and of course, a special shout out thanks to Scott Bruder for this comprehensive and detailed review of my career and accomplishments. Scott, I not only love you for your compulsiveness, but for the fact that you've known me for so many years. I think the key elements of this long career beside perseverance is that I love what I do. I love the process of discovery, and I love the process of dissemination, of teaching this new information, and to watch the incredible progression of science, not only in my field, but in other fields, that allows our civilization to progress and the level of sophistication of healthcare to be improved. To have my basic science technology translate into real clinical protocols is one of the best prizes I've ever had bestowed upon me. And I think for every basic scientist to have your bench work, to have your thought processes culminate in real clinical protocols that help people and help deliver healthcare, can't get much better than that. The World Stem Cell Summit was founded on the concept of watching the development of science and how it progressed and translated into clinical protocols. And Bernie and his crew and the focus on patient advocacy, truly spectacular. So again, I'm just honored beyond words by this award. I'm honored by my long association with the World Stem Cell Summit and with all of my wonderful friends and colleagues in the regenerative medicine field. I'm just humbled beyond words to accept this award, and thank you very much for this distinction.